Hello, this is Major Art Penhale. Welcome to Coffee Time with Jesus.
Greetings. We are so glad that you have decided to join us today. For the month of September, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at the calling that God has placed on the lives of the officers here in the KT division. Now, as you watch these videos, I hope that you're encouraged. I hope that if you have a calling in your life, that it will confirm that calling and that you will be so moved to do what it is that God desires for you. Blessings to you, my friends.
Hey guys, I'm Captain Crystal.
And I'm Captain Benny.
And we're the Corps officers in Henderson, Kentucky. And we're just here chatting together. This has been quite an eventful day for us. We had the wonderful privilege of enrolling 3 junior soldiers this morning into this great army. We were welcomed also by the Penhales. They came and worshiped with us, and it was just a wonderful time. And as we were coming home and sitting around our table, we started just really to reflect back over this past week and really all the wonderful things that God has allowed us to be able to be a part of. One of them came this morning, right? Early for you.
Yeah, so this morning at 5 a.m., I received a phone call from the local EOC director about a fire in our county, and they were needing breakfast for the first responders. So 5 a.m., wide awake, uniform on, go prepare breakfast, deliver to those who are out serving our community, just to be a beacon of hope and a beacon of light for them during this time of tragedy for our community as well.
I think even moments like that just remind us as officers why God called us into officership. We love to serve. We love to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and being able to be part of such a great community of people who love their neighbors but also love God. It's such a privilege that we get to be a part of that. I feel like the Army has given us purpose as individuals, as a couple, and seeing that reflected in just simply making sandwiches for firefighters or enrolling a junior soldier into the Army. Those are great opportunities for us, but also it's a reminder of how faithful God is. And every time I think about that, I think about 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 24, where it says, the one who calls you is faithful and he will do it. There are days where I have no lies to tell you where we struggle, right? I mean, we wake up and we're tired, and it feels like, man, God, what are you doing? What was the purpose of this? Why did you bring us to this place? And then we'll go to work, put our uniform on, we'll go to the office, and something as simple as someone coming in for a hot meal or help on utilities or rent, being able to sit in an office with someone and exchanging life with them, really sharing and being vulnerable with one another. I am so quickly reminded that no matter how scary, how tired, how frustrated I may be, my God is faithful, and he's not going to leave me ever questioning who he is and what he's doing in my life. I'm so grateful that God called me into ministry, even at such a young age. I mean, I was 15 at youth councils when I accepted the call, but I think I had always knew that the Salvation Army was for me because I grew up here. I grew up in the Army, and it was through the lives of some of those older ladies in the Corps that I knew where to sit on Sunday mornings, who had the best candy. Those kinds of relationships is what kept me coming to the Army, and I always felt like I had a home there. And if I could somehow make someone else feel that way, I know that maybe God is calling me, and there's something different about my life choice. I remember being in high school and talking with my friends about where we would all end up And people are saying, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a lawyer. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be a Salvation Army officer. And I would get such crazy, like, weird looks. But it was such an opportunity for me to be like, listen, do you know what all the Salvation Army does and how, like, they are able to be the hands and feet of Jesus in this community? And sometimes you don't even realize it, because a lot of that ministry happens behind closed doors. Like later today, after this video, after you say goodbye from us, we'll be leaving to go do some visitation with a family that's been unfortunately has been stricken with COVID and was unable to worship with us in person today. So we're going to go by and drop some goodies off to them and their kids, and just let them know that we love them and that we're praying for them, because everybody is just having such a hard time. And you know, you don't always get to see that. That's not always the big ministry side. You often see the Salvation Army as a bell ringer at Christmas, or a minister behind a pulpit. But sometimes that ministry happens in vans when you're doing pickups, and you get to conversate with those little kids that are so excited about youth programs. Or it may be in the soup kitchen when you're handing a homeless man or a woman a hot meal, and it may be the first meal they've had in a couple days. Like, I'm so grateful that God has called me into ministry.
Yeah, I remember, speaking along those lines, what brought me to the Salvation Army was my mom became an employee of the Army, and we were looking for a church to attend, and she was not only working there, but they said, hey, why don't you join us for worship on Sunday morning? And for a mom with 2 kids, that was something to get us out of the normal of sleeping in, and just to go be around other kids and have a good time. And so that was really what started my journey in the Army, is my mom being an employee and then getting enrolled as a senior soldier. And then at youth councils as well, hearing God's call to ministry and thinking, you know, of my way, of what I want to do with my life, but Him just confirming and, you know, praying, Lord, if this is your will, allow things to happen. And those doors begin to open faster than what I thought they would ever open, but they begin to open. And God began to pour His blessings, and His blessings continue to fall even today.
Yeah, I remember that youth councils, because when you went up, you grabbed my hand, and I was like, what is this boy doing? Because I was not ready. I didn't feel like I was ready. I was so young. And he slipped past me, grabbed my hand, pulled me up on stage with him. And I remember like standing on stage during the call for officership thinking, oh my goodness, there's no turning back. Everyone's going to see me, and they're going to know that like there was this part of me that God was calling that I hadn't really spoke about other than to Him. And yet here we are today, 12 years married and part of this crazy ministry together that we love so much. Honestly, I was asked just the other day, like, what would you do if you weren't an officer? And I couldn't answer it, because truth be told, like, I don't see myself ever doing anything but being a minister of God in this great Army. The Army has given me a purpose and a home and a family. Now, I grew up in a very chaotic household. My parents were addicts. My brother was an addict, and I saw such devastation and chaos all the time. And it wasn't until I was getting into high school that I had a new corps officer that was in town, didn't know me, didn't know my background, but took time and invested in me. Long story short, invited me into their home, and they took care of me and really showed me what true love and family really was. And that was only because they were living out their ministry, their calling through God. It was through them that I knew God, this was exactly what God wanted me to do. This is exactly where God wanted me to be. And if I could do that for someone else, if I could give somebody else an opportunity for their lives to be changed, like, why wouldn't I ever want to do that? And why would I want to do anything but that? I think that's like the biggest thing for me. So I couldn't answer what I could see myself doing, because we get to do so many things. That's the thing. Like, it's never the same thing. It's not, we don't wake up every day and say, this is exactly what I'm going to do today, because it's never the same. Sometimes we're rubbing elbows with the rich, and sometimes we're feeding the hungry. And regardless if it's one hat or the other, they all go together, and I love them because even the rich need Jesus, right? And we may be their only minister. I'm so grateful that we're able to have those conversations with people no matter what background they come from. There's no discrimination with God. Like, he loves everybody regardless of what their social status is. And I think that's one of the unique things about the Army that is different from other denominations, is that we get to see so many different people from so many different walks of life, and we get to love them. Like, that's such a privilege that God has given us freely to us, just to be able to give that with other people.
So today, maybe you're listening to this video and you say, I can relate to some of those things, and maybe you feel like God is calling you and you're just uncertain about that calling. The first thing that I would say do is pray. Ask God to reveal himself to you in a new way, and just know that his way is best. And although we have our lives planned and what we want to do, God's plan is greater and God's plan is better. So I would say pray, number one, and then number two, find someone who you can talk through with tough questions that you may be facing, or the tough questions about officership. Ask them, sit down and just say, this is what I'm questioning, this is what I really need help with, and allow them to give you honest advice, and take it and accept it, and then continue to pray to God. And if things need to change and you need those doors to open like I did, you have to know that God will open those doors for you. And God will make the way for things to happen, because he who calls you will also equip you, and he will be there with you every step of the way.
Yeah, I feel like there are always moments where you're uncertain about your future, you're uncertain about what God is doing in your life. But I think that really what you were saying about prayer is huge. And I would also encourage you to find your core officer or someone you trust and talk through those things together. I think that was so huge because we were so young, when we were thinking about officership at the very beginning and what that looked like for us. It was our core officers that were able to kind of speak life into us and kind of help us navigate those feelings of uncertainty. And then more importantly than anything, discernment, prayer for discernment and wisdom, and being bathed in God's word. That's huge about officership. It's not a job, it's a calling, and it's reflected in your knowledge of God and in your relationship with him. I always ask when someone says they're interested in being an officer, my first initial question is, are you in God's word? Because if you're not, and you're getting into officership for what you may think may be the perks, you'll burn out very quickly if you are not in God's word and you are not faithful to him in this calling, in knowing that God has ordained all of your days, all of your steps, everything before any of it has came to be. He's going to make sure that you're taken care of. But you will burn out so quickly if you don't have the right relationship with him. That is so huge, so pertinent. All those things, all the extra things, they'll come through life and experiences, but your relationship with God should always be your number one priority, no matter what. Because there are long days, there are hard days, there are days where we've came home and cried, but then there's also days where we've came home and rejoiced, and today is specifically one of those, because like we said, we enrolled 3 junior soldiers, but one of them was our son. And how exciting it is just to see him come to know Jesus and love God with everything he has. We didn't force junior soldiership on him. We let him come to it on his own, in his own choice, because we don't want to force religion on him. But seeing him come to know God, to go to the altar, to sign his covenant with him, such a huge moment in our lives, in this mama's heart, of course, because I was trying to fight back tears. But it was really the conversation that I had with him last night that meant more than just that. I asked him, I said, son, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, oh, I definitely want to be an officer. I want to be what you and Dad are. And I asked him why, and he said, because you love people and you love God, and I want to make it my mission that every person that I know knows Jesus, because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they want to know God? And of course, I went into the room or into my bedroom, and I teared up, as a mama would do, because I was so proud of him. Like, why wouldn't you want to know Jesus? I feel like sometimes as adults, we, our light dims and we get scared, we get nervous about rejection. But kids, they're fearless. They just want people to know God. They want to love God. They want to serve God. They want to do all the good stuff. And sometimes as adults, we question God's goodness, but he doesn't. There's just something so bold about that. And I want to be like him when I grow up. I want to be bold and fearless too. But I hope that, this little conversation that we're having together, this time with Jesus, we're supposed to be drinking coffee, but I ain't gonna lie, it may be like Diet Coke in my coffee cup, because I don't really drink coffee. But I encourage you, my husband encourages you, of course, to be in God's Word. Spend time with Jesus every day. Be faithful to that, because the one who calls you is faithful also, and he will carry it out. He's going to make sure you're okay. We love you guys, and hit us up anytime that you have questions. We'd love to answer them the best of our ability. But yeah, bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget, we want for you to subscribe to our channel. So make certain you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button if you like the content that you see. And if you feel led, leave us a comment. We want to hear from you. Also, we want to remind you that when it comes to your tithes and offering, make certain that you are being faithful to this act of worship. And we encourage you to use tithely if you're unable to meet. Blessings to you, my friends.
We would like to say thank you for joining us for our Coffee Time with Jesus. We look forward to seeing you again next week. God bless you, and have a great week.